we have another guest today, and her name is Ellen Whiteside, and I'm so excited. We were just starting our conversation, and I realized it was actually the great beginning of this fantastic episode. So, Ellen has quite a story to share with us today, and I am really excited to dive into the details, but let me introduce you to her first. So, Ellen likes to talk about her breakthrough year, how turning pain into power, purpose, and possibility. And it's about hitchhiking and traveling in Europe. And she is the steward of the Sacred Grove Retreat for nearly 2 decades, which is a sanctuary where clarity, healing, and transformation unfold. Ellen, first of all, I just want to say so thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
It's
Yes.
a pleasure. So,
Yeah.
we were just talking about it. You hitchhiked in Europe for a year, and what kind of led up to that. So I'm just going to let you take the floor and share your
Okay.
story.
So I had I'll try to do it really quickly. So I had graduated college. I grew up in the South. It was always easy for me to make friends. And I moved to Washington, D.C. And I had no idea how to make friends. I knew, I mean, it was just like I was living actually in an apartment thing where people would walk down the aisle or in the hallway and not even look at you. So it was that cold city, like, no, what do you want type of thing. And it wasn't like people smiling and speaking and saying hello. So I was completely at a loss. So anyway, for that year, after a while, I became a runner. I ran 6 miles a day, and it was really just to have something to do. And so I'd run 3 miles in the morning, 3 miles at night. And then I realized after a short while of just being miserable, lonely, and alone, or just really sad, that if I was going to have a life, it was going to be up to me. So if I was going to go to a movie, I was going with myself out to dinner. So I started doing everything alone, which gave me the stamina. You keep doing that, you get very comfortable with doing that. So I decided, because I really was miserable with my job, with the whole situation, that I was going to save my money and go to Europe. And so that is what I did. And when I got to Europe, I went with two friends. I went with two gay men friends. This is back in 1978. And we flew into London. As soon as we got there, one of them, who had been doing some modeling in New York, decided he wanted to go straight to Milan. So he left like 2 days later to go to Milan. The other one wanted to go to Amsterdam. So bada bing, 2 days after getting it to London, I'm alone because I wanted to stay in England and go see Scotland before I got on a Euro pass in Europe. So the way I was planning on seeing it was hitchhiking. So I had all the confidence and the courage and the stamina built up for that year of living alone in DC, that I had no fear to go out to. The best book in the world back then for traveling was called Let's Go Europe, put out by Harvard students every year. It told you where to go if you were hitchhiking, going up north out of London, to go take a train here, get off. So it was like this little hitchhiking guide, is what I felt like. And then I was staying in youth hostels. I was meeting people constantly. It was the best year of my life. So I went from having the loneliest year of my life, which was my training ground to get me to go and have the best year of my life. So it's like there's always nuggets in whatever we think is going on with us. Because when I flew back from Europe, I remember flying in, I had a whole different appreciation of that year, completely, of realizing I just went through this major schooling, which gave me the absolute confidence to do what I wanted to do. So I encourage you, always, always follow your heart. And when things are going wrong, look for the nuggets that are in it if you think like things are going wrong. But I've learned so much from that, of instead of going down the negative rabbit hole when things happen, is always staying at a level of like, okay, this happened, and it has to be, I always say, it has to be for my highest good. Even though in the moment, absolutely, it feels like it's absolutely the worst thing in the world. I know that eventually it will prove to be true. Because that is always my commitment is it has to be for my highest good.
Yeah, it's so true. And so this, I did not realize it was DC you were in. I grew up in Alexandria, just outside of DC, and spent 35 years there. And you're describing the no eye contact. I'm like, oh, I remember that. And it was a trip to Italy in 2006, where I actually saw how Europeans are so welcoming and friendly that I left DC and moved to Colorado. I mean, that was like, ah, yeah. But I actually, it's interesting because I was working at a law school association there in DC, and I had to travel at least once a year. And my daughter was small; she was in grade school, and I had comp days, so I started traveling alone. I started eating alone at that point in my life, and actually, you talk about training when I became single, and now I regularly do it, and I'm extremely comfortable traveling alone. I do it all the time because I
Yep.
did it for work, and for me, it was like, oh, my daughter is at home. My husband's stuck with her because I'm working, but I'm going to stay a couple extra days. If I have comp days, I'm not going home. They'll pay for my flight no matter when I go back. I'm
Yep.
staying in San Francisco. I'm staying in Atlanta, you know?
No, it's just like it's great that you took advantage of that too, right?
Hmm.
It's like,
Hmm.
okay, how can I make what else can I make out of this travel trip? Oh, I can stay a couple of days and see blah 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 blah. So
Right.
that's great.
I
Yeah.
go camping quite a bit while as I'm aging, and in Colorado it gets down to like 40 at night, even in the winter, and that's been a little tough. But people are like, "Are you gonna go by yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? I'm gonna set up the tent." But I love how, to go back to how it was first year, the worst year of your life, and then you ended up following that up with the best year. It reminded me so much of that Eat, Pray, Love story that I absolutely love, where she kind of found herself in that year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was one of the other podcasts I was on, the woman traveled the exact same year I did.
Wow.
And she called it her Eat, Pray, Love year.
Hmm.
And she was there in 88. I'm like, maybe we passed in a youth hostel, you know? So, but I mean, travel is the best teacher of all. Going to other countries in my world, I think every American child should be required to do an exchange program so that they will have a little bit more appreciation for the country we live in. Because, yeah, so traveling is absolutely the best teacher of all. And I love traveling. I always have.
Yeah, I mean, I had a husband who had never been out of the United States, which to me blew my mind. Like, what do you mean? But even just going to Mexico and seeing the poverty and being like, oh, I have
Yeah.
it pretty good here.
Yeah.
You go to other countries and just experience. I love going to like to the hotels and be like, I don't want to go to the tourist traps. Where do the locals go? And just really immersing myself in the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what when I got to Europe and I had a Euro pass for 3 months. So I was zipping around on the train, going up to Norway, Sweden, down, I ended up eventually ended up in Greece because it had a thing in Corfu, Greece that you could get to. But I was really grateful when my URL ended and I could start hitchhiking again
Hmm.
because I was just I mean, it was great people that were traveling and most of them were Americans. And I'm like, no, I'm in Europe because I want to meet the people of these countries. I don't want to meet
Right.
just Americans. And so I was grateful because when you're hitchhiking, you're getting into the car of a individual that usually is in that country. And
Hmm.
what I found so much was everyone that 99% of the people on the planet absolutely are the most loving, giving people, and they want to make everyone that, especially if they're coming, they know you're from another country, they want to make you feel good. They want to
Hmm.
make sure you have a good experience. They want to make sure that they are kind and loving. And that's what I experienced over and over and over was just the kindness of strangers. And yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, it reminded me when I was in Italy with my ex-husband. So he spoke fluent Italian because he was a formerly in the service. But
Yep.
we had this situation. We had a stick shift car that we rented, and he backed it. We were turning around, and he backed it down this dirt road. and then he couldn't get it back up.
Oh no.
And I don't speak Italian, and there's this farmer out in the road. So he writes a note in Italian. Neither one of us speak our language, and I'm trying to like point to the car and give him the note. The next thing I know, his wife is out. They've stopped traffic. They pull the truck out. They pull us out. They won't take money. And those are the stories that I'm sure you have experienced as
Huh.
well.
Yeah. I mean, I had read Wayne Dyer's Your Erroneous Zones. So that was like the one, I think that was his first book. So there weren't
Okay.
a lot of metaphysical teachings out there, but I
Yeah.
read that book and then I realized in hindsight when I look back at it, or as we started hitchhiking, a friend came over and we hitchhiked for 5 months together. And I realized how much it was like just in putting my thumb out there to get a car coming 55 miles an hour or whatever, 35, 45 miles an hour to stop, to want to pick me up to get into their car. Like I had to be, how did I have to be? How did I have to show up? What did I have to be doing in order to get that, to become a vibrational match for that car to stop? And so I realized so much of, it's smiling, it's really being engaging, it's looking like you're, instead of going, "Bleh," with my thumb,
Right.
like, come, pick me up. I'm never going to get picked up. And I was traveling with someone who was much more of a negative Nelly like that. We're never going to get picked up. It's like, don't say that. Get up here and smile and have a good look on, and just realizing the power of that it's our beingness that attracts us to what we're going to be attracted to bring into our life, that we get to be that person.
I'm sure that when you got back, there are so many things that were so different for you. Do you want to share a little bit about that as well?
Well, you know what's interesting because I ended up going back to DC, and I moved into a group house. Three of us had been traveling in Europe, so we've been speaking first grade English, right? When you're speaking in first grade English for a year, it was really nice to get back and be able to have just full language with people who understood rather than trying to speak in that way. I noticed that particularly
Mhm.
of like, oh, I get to just really talk like I want to talk. But yeah, just I, let's see. I came back with so much, just no fear and just to do whatever it was I wanted. So the only thing I wanted to do when I got back, number one, I became addicted to espresso coffee. So finding a place in America that had great coffee, which was the Northwest, that also they had amazing environmental laws. They had bicycle lanes everywhere. And this is back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the whole state, you can't own beachfront property in Oregon. And so if you look, so I was looking at a map. That was back in map days. And it was like the whole state was almost green. The whole coastline was green. I was like, what? And so I moved to Oregon, hit backpack on my back, and stayed 22 years. So, it's like I just didn't have the fear, and I wanted to sell flowers from a street corner. So
Mhm.
I moved into a group house. I had a roommate that knew how to weld. He built me a flower cart. So I just was doing the things that I just didn't have fear about. This is what I want to do. What do I want to do next? And it's like I really feel like that year really set me on the path of like making sure I loved what I was doing and it wasn't about the money. And it certainly was not about getting stuff. I thought if I can have the best year of my life living out of a backpack, then stuff is not going to make me happy. So it really taught me non-materialism very at a very early age. So which was great.
Yeah. And it's so, I love what you said about it. You had to love what you did because I spent so many years in a corporate job I hated for the money and I wasn't happy.
Right.
Yes, I had options and choices, but I also learned as well that, I've become more of a minimalist as I've become older.
Yeah.
Twice in my life, I've gotten rid of everything I've owned and just left and moved somewhere else, whether by myself or with someone else. And the freedom I felt of relinquishing a lot that I just gave away. I
Yeah.
had a diamond bracelet that my ex-husband had given me, and I got rid of everything just because it was an abusive marriage, and I didn't want those memories. And I
Yeah.
remember the day my ex-husband and I, the next ex-husband, we had a yard sale, and I hadn't sold the bracelet, and our mailman came up, and I said, "Do you have a lady friend in your life?" And I go, "Here, just take it. I don't want it." And he's like, you're kidding me. It was real diamonds. And I was like, his face lit up. It was worth it. Like, I didn't want the money. Just,
I love it.
right?
That's a great thing of being able to gift something like that because
Right?
it's like, what? You know, that's a great story for him to have. Oh yeah, on my route today. What do you get? What's the best story you have as a mailman, you know? So I'm sure that was definitely one of his stories for sure.
Yeah.
Great. I know there is such a freedom, you know, it's freedom in relinquishing stuff that keeps us attached. And
Hmm.
I get to do more of that. I have accumulated too much stuff now.
Yeah. It does seem to happen. It creeps up on us again. And then I'm like, what the heck? You know?
Well, you know, it's like I was always such a more of a minimalist because I
Mhm.
became after I did flowers, I became a massage therapist. And because I could have the time freedom was my number one currency. That was the asset I wanted the most was to be able to travel. And so I never made a lot of money, but I had a lot of time freedom. And so I was realizing how valuable that was. Of that was the currency that I wanted in my world, not the money in my checking account.
Hmm. Well, I welcome money. I will say that at the same time, I grew up poor and I lived far better than my parents ever did. But
Um,
I also, um, I'm okay with doing things that don't cost money. And in fact, there's been times in my life where money was short, and I got really creative of finding free things. And
right.
there's a lot out there, and it's fine. You know, you don't have to have things or money to really have a rich life. And I actually think that money isn't richness, it's your experiences for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I moved to back to North Carolina, I started a retreat center. Then all of a sudden now I have like 5 places I rent out. So, you know, it's like going from minimalism of living in an apartment to like
Yeah.
now I'm at a retreat center and I have to get all this stuff to fill furniture, linens. You know, it's like that whole thing. And it felt weird to me at
Hmm.
because I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I
Right.
can't just it used to be, I can't fit everything into my Volkswagen and just leave. So, and I get to live in paradise. So it's a trade-off. But
Yeah.
I've been here 20 years now. So obviously it's something I like.
Absolutely. Would you like to share some more about that retreat center? I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, it's I'm in an hour from Charlotte, North Carolina. I have it's on 11 acres. There's a vortex on the property. There's a labyrinth on the property. I have 3 yurts. I have a small cabin. That's my most popular rental called a throw cabin. It'd be a great place for someone to come and write a book. I have the main retreat house sleeps 16 people. And then I have another hand-built three bedroom hand-built log home on the property. So it's and it has hiking trails and it's completely in nature. There's no light pollution. I keep televisions off the property. I feel like they are just negative energy vibrational units. So I don't have any televisions. I do have Wi-Fi now. 2020 kind of woke me up that people travel and they need Wi-Fi. And so I have Wi-Fi in the log house and the Grove house now, which I did not have before because I wanted people to get completely off grid. And people
Hmm.
can still do that.
Hmm.
And but some people definitely are traveling more and need internet service. So.
Hmm.
But it's a magical place. We have a holistic fair twice a year, which is coming up this coming Sunday. And so anybody from North Carolina can come to it for sure. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely, lovely place. So I'm always looking for people who are looking to do retreats to come and host their retreat here.
Nice. It sounds wonderful. When I go camping, I'm often in the mountains and I just turn my phone off for 3 or 4 days. I have it with me in case there's an emergency. My daughter knows where I'm at, but there's something too about just totally unplugging. And
Yeah.
everything can wait. If you sent me an email, you can wait. I'll be back in a few days.
So,
Right.
Darla, where in Colorado are you?
I'm in Durango.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually just moved back 6 months ago. I've lived all over in Arizona. I was in Washington State, so I've seen a lot of Oregon and it's very beautiful. Yeah, but
My
yeah.
ex-in-laws lived in Estes Park.
Oh yeah,
So
I
I've
used
gone to
to.
Colorado a lot. Boulder, when I was, before I'd ever moved to Oregon, for some reason I want to live in Boulder, Colorado in my mindset when I was in high school.
Hmm.
And I love Boulder and Portland are like kind of like sister cities in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
lived in Boulder, Lyons, Lakewood. Yeah, I've lived in a lot of places.
a lot of places. Colorado's a beautiful state to live in.
It
It
is.
really is. It's a great, beautiful, gorgeous, the mountains and yeah, I've done tons of camping as well. That was like I haven't done it in recent years, but I used to do lots of backpacking, Mount Hood and
Oh,
climbing mountains and that whole thing. But yeah,
yeah.
the Northwest is lovely and I'm totally loving North Carolina too. North Carolina is another really great state.
It is. It's one of the ones I considered. If I don't think I would ever go back to the East Coast. I don't think I could. But North Carolina, when I was sort of considering it a few years ago, was where I was thinking. Um, the Outer Banks. My daughter got married there, and of course, I've been on vacation there because I used to be on the East Coast. But yeah,
Yeah. It's just the humidity, which you don't have to worry about in Colorado, which makes it so.
yeah, it's not too bad. I have to say, after being in Arizona for 3 years, when I first got here, I was like, it's so humid, which is nothing compared to DC, like nothing. But I had so little of it
Yeah,
that
you could feel it.
right,
Compared to Arizona, you could feel
you
it.
could feel it. As we wrap up, if someone wants to get in touch with you, and we'll put it in the show notes, how can they find you?
They can go to sacredgroveretreat.com or they can just, I am totally a texter. So my phone number is 704-299-5124. Or if you want to email me, text me and let me know you emailed me at love, abundance, and joy, and everything is spelled out at Gmail. So it's love, abundance, dance, not abundant, abundance, and joy at Gmail.
Perfect. This has been such a fun conversation. I love travel. I want to do more. I haven't done as much as I've wanted to, so you have sparked me. I need to renew my passport. It's expired. That's a problem.
Love it. I
Yeah,
know. Yes. So I thank you so much, Darla. It's been a joy and pleasure to meet you as
same.
well.
Same, Ellen. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.